Significant Coaching Podcast. I'm Coach Matt Rogers. I'm excited to share my conversation with one of the true good guys and great characters in all of college sports, Buck Buchanan, head football coach at Hendrix College, one of the top academic D3s and one of the prettiest campuses in Conway, Arkansas. Coach Buck started the program at Hendrix 12 years ago and quickly turned it into a winning program within 3 years, which is darn near impossible to pull off at any level. What makes Coach Buck special is his commitment to helping every young man in his program reach their potential. Hendrix Warriors leave his tutelage better players, better students, and better young men. It was a fun conversation, and you'll soon hear why. If you all are enjoying these conversations, I encourage you to subscribe on your platform of choice and leave me a comment with your thoughts and questions. You can always find me at CoachMattRogers.com when you want more information. Let's get to it. Here's my conversation with Justin Buck Buchanan.
Hey, Buck. Hey, Matt. How are you?
I'm good, Coach. How are you?
Better than yesterday. Hopefully not as good as tomorrow.
I hear that, my friend. I hear that. What's Center College look like?
Good, like always. They've got a good squad, and Andy does a good job of coaching those guys up and being ready to play. And they play with a lot of confidence, and we got to get after it this week. So it's a challenge.
Who's your big rival? Is it Millsaps?
Rhodes and Millsaps are the biggest geographical rivals, probably. Rhodes is probably the biggest rival we have because proximity, being in Memphis and us in Central Arkansas. That's geographically our biggest rival. And of course, that game's been 4 instant classics in a row. We went to double overtime, and then we lost in double overtime 4 years ago, and then we won 6-0 3 years ago, and then we won 50-49 last year. And then we lost on the last drive. They had a 2-minute drive down to score. We had 38 seconds, went all the way back down the 5-yard line, and I mismanaged the clock, and we didn't have a chance to score. We thought we scored a win. So it's Rich and we're good friends. It was like we get our cardio for the year in one game.
I know that when I was coaching in the SLIAC, man, it was just, you just knew there was going to be 3 or 4 games every year where it was going to come down to the last play of the game, the last possession of the game. And so I don't think people understand that don't know D3 football, how intense it is, how the rivalries are. Yeah.
Of course, next year it'll change a little bit too. We'll still play Rhodes and Millsaps. We're going from the SAA to the SCAC. We'll go back more towards Texas. And so that'll be our other rivals, probably Austin College, just because I'm an Austin College grad. And Coach White and I are good friends too. So that makes it fun, but that'll go back on the table for next year.
How does that transition to the new conference? How do you feel about that? Is that a good move for you guys?
I feel like it's a good move. I love the competition, the SAA. I'm not taking anything away from that. One thing I will say, every week in this league, if you don't have your mouthpiece in, you'll get your teeth knocked out. Anybody actually can beat anybody. It's one of those leagues where I think there's a lot of parity, and our league has gotten consistently better and better over the years. And so for that, I'm not happy about leaving that because I think our league is becoming more and more respected. But I am happier to be back in more of our recruiting area, more of our niche, because playing back in Texas and playing back towards the West and still being able to play Rhodes and Millsaps fairly close, shorten our trips down a little bit. And for our other sports, I think it'd be really good too, because they have more day travel trips rather than multi-day travel trips, except for Colorado College. It's hard to get there in a day, but for the most part, it's going to put us playing in our recruiting area more. And, even though we're a top 100 liberal arts college in the country, and we like to brag about all that. I mean, regionally, that's where the majority of our students come from. So in that footprint of the SCAC, 92% of our student body comes from that footprint. So that part is good. And of course, I'm from Texas. And so being able to play back towards family and everything. So selfishly, I like that.
Yeah. It's almost like taking a new job for you. You get to be close to home more often.
Right.
That's pretty cool. When you look at the SAA, you guys have been known for as long as I've been coaching as one of the top academic schools in the country. How's the transition academically? Do you guys feel like, I know Austin's a great school. How do you feel like the transition is going to be academically?
It's I'll put it this way. Most of the guys that come to school aren't really looking at who your school plays against per se. We're still going to recruit the same kids we were always going to recruit. And again, we match up fairly well with some of those schools. Austin College and Colorado College obviously are top schools as well. And the other schools in the league are good schools. It's not like we're stepping out of that realm.
Right.
Not quite maybe in the classification as all the SAA schools. But again, I don't think that really matters as much to young men that are looking at where they're going to play as who they're playing against. I actually told our president, I said, when I went to Austin College, we played schools that are all D2 now, and like Tarleton and Midwestern. And you know what? I got recruited by some of those schools too, but I wanted to go to the more academic schools. Not taking anything away from any of those schools, but that was my choice. And that's what we're trying to look for. And I think most of all of our schools like us are trying to look for those type of guys.
Yeah. When you look back at when you went to Hendrix a dozen years ago, what were the things about Hendrix at that time that really got you excited about that job? And are those still the same things that keep you there?
Yes, I would say the thing there's a multi-layer answer to that.
Yeah.
Well, so when I'd always known about Hendrix because when I was coaching women's basketball at Austin College back in the day, we played here and always knew it was a school like us. It just didn't have football. And so I had come to Conway before. And so when I came to Conway again, fast forward, whatever that was, 15 years or so, right. Conway was not like this before. It was twice as big as it was. The campus was way different. The athletic facilities were way different. And I was like, I was okay with the way before. This is really nice. So Conway, neat place because it has large town amenities with a small town feel. And
yes.
I'm more of a small town feel kind of guy, but I like the large town amenities. But the thing that stuck out the most is when I interviewed here, and of course, no one ever thought we could have football started, much less be good at it over time. But I got to meet with a lot of people, and they reminded me of what made Austin College special to me when I went to school there. People had been here in the 50s and 60s. And one of my professors' brother, one of my favorite professors at Austin College's brother played football here.
Yeah.
He was on one of the committees. There was just all those little things lined up, and like a small world thing. So I gave a speech at a Beta Club convention long years ago for my wife's class. The student representative at Hendrix to bring football back, so they had a student on the committee, was my boat mechanic in Alexandria, Louisiana, his grandson, which was at that Beta Club speech that I gave back when I first got to Louisiana College.
You're kidding me.
Not kidding.
What a small world.
Those little things just kept adding up, and man, this is just a great place. And really, so what it comes down to is the people make the place, and that's for anything, in my opinion. And those people that I met here, like Coach Strange and Coach Garrison and Coach Kelly and all the people that knew my coaches that were the older coaches here back in the day, they reminded me again of what made it special. And I'm like, we can make this special for kids.
I had to put up with Rebecca Bagley for a while. So she's pretty special too.
Yeah, no doubt. We had a great relationship, and I'm thrilled that at least I made enough impression that she far beyond, right?
She's a huge fan of yours. And just because of that, I had to meet you. And I had to spend some time with you. She said nothing but great things about you. But
I said I would say something funny within the first 5 minutes too, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I always learned if you answer people with riddles, they never know what you're talking about.
That's right. Yeah, I'm with you there. I was a college basketball coach long enough that I had a lot of riddles I could throw out. Because I was like you, I made enough mistakes on the court that I had to confuse them. If I didn't have the answer, I had to try and confuse them.
That's right.
Coach, I'm amazed at anybody that starts any type of college program, but especially a college football program. That just seems like an impossible venture to me, because you're not bringing in 10 basketball players. You're not bringing in 8 tennis players. You got to somehow find 60, 70 kids that are going to come in and be playing against kids that have been in a program for 4 years, weight room, strength conditioning, know the system, and you had to start this from scratch. Walk me through that. Where do you start?
So you just add flour.
I hear that. The yeast.
Somebody asked me that one time. You just add flour and start mixing. But first of all, So this is the second startup I've been involved with, because at Louisiana College, we started from scratch in 2000.
I forgot about that. I remember that.
And so I learned a lot about what not to do and tried to not repeat those same mistakes.
And we don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but what were some of those things that you learned not to do? What were some the past you said, I can't
So
take
one
that
of the
down?
biggest things that I took from that was we started with too many people the first year at Louisiana College.
Okay.
We had some good players and all, but we started with too many because, and I knew for here, we needed to start small and build big, because we needed to get the right guys. And we started with 53 the first year, which was a gamble. It was a gamble, but I knew if we had 50 to 60 guys, everybody would travel, everybody was important, everybody was all in, and everybody got reps every day. And we weren't sitting around not getting reps, and everybody got better every day because they were always getting reps. Now, we were beat to crap by the end of the year, and that scared the crap out of me. And I'll tell you a funny story. We had a couple transfers that really anchored us. Casey Caton, one of them, he was a scholar athlete and he had gone to Harding, and he transferred over here because he wanted to catch the ball. He was a receiver, and he's an Air Force JAG now, and but he was our kind of leader. And so this is what he said one time. So we're like week 8 or 9, and there's 38 guys healthy, and I'm looking out there going, man, are we going to make it to week 10? And I said, just like, hey, NFL's got 53-man roster. We're just fine. I'm like building this up to be like, the NFL only plays with 50-something guys. In case he raises his hand and goes, Coach, they have free agency, and they can sign anybody anytime. He goes, I don't think anybody on the other side of the street here at Hendrix is going to be signing anytime soon. And I was like, great point. Not the time.
Every roster's got a kid like that. He's got all the right answers and terrible timing. I was gonna say the NFL carries 53, but what I found interesting is since COVID, they made all these rule changes. Now their practice squad's 17 guys now. Yeah. So it's really a 70-man roster.
Yeah. And so, that was our idea. And it was trying to make sure everybody got reps every day and we got better at what we did. And we were blessed because we had some talent in that first group. I'd like to say I'm a great coach, but we had a guy named Seth Peters, Dayton Wynn, and 5 offensive linemen that played every snap for 41 ball games. That made it special. And Seth and Dayton were both All-Americans in their career, and they were special. And then we had some defensive guys that grew as the program grew, and we were able to put a great team together. But again, I think because we started small, and part of that, not just to get reps every day, but part of that was to be engaged on campus. Because if we would have started like we did at Louisiana College, there's about 50-something guys that are really involved week to week in game and whatever. And what happens is 40 or 50 guys, if you got 100 guys, are not feeling good about it. And they're all freshmen, so they're all seeing as freshmen in front of them going, my time here is never going to happen. Right. And then you get 40 or 50 guys that are disengaged, and they're not trying to be goal-oriented and motivated towards what the team goal is. And that's where you have issues with people doing the wrong thing off of camp, on the other side of campus, and acting out or not going to class because they don't want to be here. And that, without having some stratification of classes, that's very hard with all freshmen. That's why starting small was important, because everybody was engaged and they were involved in the freshman class. And they not only bought into what we were talking about in football, but they also were able to do that on the other side of campus. And that first group had over a 3.0 right off the bat. And
that's fantastic. Yeah, that is so hard to do.
Yes, and it's very hard to do at our place. I mean, our typical freshman classes are under a 3-point, but our graduating classes are all over a 3-point. But
of course,
that was their mindset, that they weren't going to give anybody a reason why Hendrix football wasn't going to be here to last. And we were fortunate. We won our first game, and
amazing
in a crazy fashion, because it is funny. The first play, we took a sack. The second play, we threw interception. They ran it back to a 3-yard line. The third play, they scored a touchdown. And I swear I heard 3,000 people behind me go, this is what football at Hendrix is going to be like. But we kicked the field goal with 6 seconds left to beat those guys. It was like 50. I don't remember. But we beat them by 2, and it was a score fest.
Wow. That's the game you never forget.
That was what was special for those guys. And that was probably one of the top highlights of my career. I remember the last drive, we got a 2-minute drive. We had to get 2 fourth downs. Spencer Smith catching 2 fourth down balls on that drive. But I'm just sitting there going, Lord, just please give us a chance. Just give us a chance to win this game. So what that did was it just taught those guys that, man, we're not afraid of anything and we'll go out and win. And then the next week we take our first road trip. We go to Birmingham Southern, and, never been on the bus more than an hour, most of these guys, So we get in between Mississippi and Alabama, and there's a fatal wreck on the highway, and we are standing still in traffic. There's we don't move for 2.5 hours. And so we're late to the hotel. We don't do a walkthrough. We got the food we ate at 10 p.m. Everybody was starving on the bus, and we get in, eat at 10 p.m. We wake up, we go, we're down 21-0 in 3 drives. And I'm like, okay, reality is about to set in. And then I told Coach Neal, I said, hey, just start letting Seth sling it around. We got empty. We started throwing it, and we had a chance to win that game. We were up in the fourth quarter and fumbled going in to go 2 scores.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Losing the game. And that was the defending champions. And I'm like, I think we can play with anybody. And it's just that group of guys just never felt like they couldn't go out there and play. And it was special.
It's so smart, Buck, because whether it was your intention or not, just the idea that in the back of your head, there was that retention conversation you were having, because it's so hard to recruit to D3 as it is, because you're not throwing money. You're not throwing any guarantees at these kids.
We throw the ball.
You throw the ball and you hope somebody throws it to you every once in a while.
But
it's just the fact that you started with that mindset. Let's get that number where every kid can play. Because if you bring in 100, you're probably going to lose 50 of those kids because, like you said, everybody's my age and I'm not playing now. What's going to happen is they get older and they bring in other freshmen. So now you're recruiting that 50 all over again.
Yep.
Instead of saying, okay, we got 53 we love, we're going to bring in 25 more freshmen the next year. We're going to build this in layers. So I love that mindset. And what you've done in 12 years, starting that way, is just miraculous.
Yeah, we took a step back when COVID happened a little bit, and that hurt us. We had a huge senior class that year, and then and I'll just be honest, I don't think a lot of the kids were ready for college, and a lot of college wasn't ready for kids after COVID. We've taken a step back a little bit, but we try to take that approach in the last couple of years, and we only have 11 seniors this year, but we have a great junior and sophomore class, and when trying to take that same way to build it back to what we would like. I appreciate you saying that, because again, it was a risk, and our staff wasn't all on board with that all the time either, because we're not going to have enough people. I'm like,
oh yeah, you had to have a couple kids playing both ways by the end of the season, didn't you?
We didn't. We were
really,
we were fortunate. Like I said, we were fortunate to have those linemen played every ball game, and that's really where we were more concerned than anything. And of course, they took almost every rep in practice too, but I also wanted to be where we coached those guys every day. There wasn't a scout team that just went and did scout team and felt like they weren't getting coached. We want to make sure those guys feel, and we've taken that same approach now. And it costs us reps in practice to some degree, but at least our eyes are on our kids all the time and trying to give them feedback on what to do. And I think that's one of the things whether it's Division I, Division II, Division III, like all small college, you're trying to find that niche to why you would want to do that over something else. And I think a lot of us approach it that way because we're relational, not transactional as much as relational.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be at that level. Let's dive into that, Coach, because I'm really intrigued by what's going on at the Division I level and how it's leaking into the lower divisions. Are you finding that the level of, and I hate using the word entitlement, but it's so prevalent right now. I'm talking to Division I and Division II coaches, and they're saying everything is transactional. I'm constantly negotiating with kids and moms and dads. Are you finding that, or are you finding those kids that say, man, I want a great education. I want to go somewhere that's going to set me up for my future. I want to play ball. I want to be on the field playing ball. Are you finding those kids that have that value system still, like you and I played, and I want to play? I want to get a degree and I want to play. Right?
Yeah, I think eventually we're going to see more and more of that trickle down at all levels. But the reality is, I think that's one of the benefits of being at an academic school, because you're still looking at that first and foremost. A lot of times you're looking at guys that are looking at the end result of college when you're recruiting them.
Right.
And not everybody. I mean, we still got guys that think I'm going to see how this works out for a year. And then there's more thinking like that. But most of the time, once you get them into the culture and the system and everything, they're like, okay, I want to be a part of this. And I said one time I think we had one guy that went to the transfer portal last year. Maybe it was a year before, but I just said, I need you to understand, it's not Star Trek. Just because you go in, you don't get beamed somewhere magically. Everybody that's in there is looking for a place too. And everybody does. Most people don't find a place. And let's be honest, if somebody wanted you, they would have talked to you to get you there.
That's right.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see some residual of that trickle down, but for the most part, we're still recruiting goal-oriented, career-oriented. We talk about outcomes when we talk to parents and students about this is what our 12 years of graduates have done. This is what they're doing. And this is what you're going to achieve through this process of being a Hendrix Warrior.
Yeah.
And that's really, I'm thankful that we're 12 years in now, because I think it'd have been harder to start football now, because at least now I can talk about outcomes, because all those guys that came the first few years, they just had to believe in what I was saying. So that's all right. Now I'm like, you still need to believe in what I'm saying, but this is the proof.
That's right. You didn't have any proof back then, which makes it even more remarkable what you did. I'm intrigued, Coach, about how your conversations go when you're recruiting, and then when you get kids on campus. What are you telling them about earning playing time and what that looks like? And the fact that being a college athlete, if you're not thinking about this as a marathon, a 4-year marathon instead of a 1-year sprint, you're really setting yourself up for failure. How does that conversation go for you?
One of the things that we talk to, and we try to involve the parents too, because is understanding that when you were a freshman in high school, you probably didn't go and play 10 games on varsity right off the bat. And sometimes you did, but you know, a lot of times those guys are not Division III players when they're graduating. Now, sometimes, like I did get moved up to varsity back in the day, but I still grew square. I didn't grow up. I was a square defensive lineman. I was not. So measurables were not it just wasn't going to happen. No matter how good it wasn't going to happen. You can't wish yourself taller. I've tried. But anyway, bottom line is trying to get them to understand, like, we're college football coaches. We're trying to put the best players on the field. And if you're a freshman, you're the best, you're the best. If you're a senior, you're the best, you're the best. But you have to look at this as a career over time, not how do I feel as a freshman when I get my first paperback and it's got more red than black on it. I failed for the first time, because I think for our guys, a lot of our guys have never failed at anything. And so we talk to them about that. It's not about whether you fail or not. It's how you fail forward that counts.
That's right.
And one of my favorite books, it's on the floor back there, is John Maxwell's Failing Forward. It's one of my favorite books. And a lot of times I give the seniors that book, because like when you leave here, it's not going to be easy and you fail forward. But point being is, learning how to fail is important in the process of becoming, and that everything it's not going to be like you want it to be every day. If it was, we'd never lose a game. We'd never have a bad play. Those things would never happen. But smooth sails make bad sailors, or smooth seas make bad sailors. You've got to learn from the experience of things, and try to get people to understand that, and understand that if you stay, we always say, if you stay, you'll be a champion. It's not necessarily that we're guaranteeing you're going to win a championship. It's guaranteeing that you're going to have what it takes to be able to be a winner when you leave this place.
That's right.
And that's the part that trying to get people to understand is sometimes difficult, because we're in a system, our society is instant gratification. You can touch a phone, you can get anything you want immediately. You can get it immediate. And so when things become hard, it's the easiest thing to go, I want to hit the reset button, or this is hard, I don't want to do it. And so trying to coach them through that. And I always tell the parents when they get here as freshmen, like, at some point in time, your son is going to call you and say he doesn't want to be here. And the worst thing you can do is say, come home.
That's right.
Because, in the first class, there's a great example of this, and I'm not going to say his name, but like his mother came up here with him and goes, I'm not letting him go home. I've only made him do 2 things in life, and that's go to the school he went to in high school and come back here. And that guy, you couldn't have tore him away from here after that year. But it was kicking and screaming to stay.
Yeah.
a lot of freshmen struggle that way, but if they stay, they will be okay.
That's
But
right.
it's just so much change. And so getting them to understand that is important. And then, like, one of the things I talked about a couple of weeks ago with our players is you're 2 months in. How are you thinking about things? I talked about getting your first test back, and it's the first time you ever failed something because you thought you had college figured out, but it wasn't, because you didn't study enough, and you didn't take an hour out of class to read, and you didn't do the things that we told you should do. And now you have to learn from experience. It's a cruel master, and you have to learn. Now all of a sudden you're evaluating, is playing worth not doing well? And are you freaking out about your future because you did bad on the first test, or you didn't settle down and do what it takes to be successful? The greatest thing about places like us is your professors are available. If you will go get in their hip pocket, they want you to be successful,
Right.
just like we do. And I say, there's nobody on our campus that doesn't want you to be better tomorrow than today.
It's right.
And I would think that's most campuses, because we're not there to see who belongs. That was part of that message. And then the other part is, like, some of you have watched a football game for the first time in a long time because you've been standing on the sideline, playing a special teams play, or you've never watched a football game in a while, and you forgot what that was like. And it doesn't feel good. And I don't want it to feel good, because if it felt good, you don't need to be playing. But you're going to have to understand that if you will just stick it out, we have 3 fifth-year freshmen on this team, 3 fifth-year seniors that didn't play very much as freshmen, and now they don't leave the field. If you will just stick it out, it will all work out. But you have to be able to adapt, adjust, improvise, and overcome. Yeah. And we talk about those things. And then I really highlighted that. What's it take to be 2 months into this thing? But then we've lost a game. We've won a game. We won a homecoming game. It was a big deal. We lost a game we probably shouldn't have lost. And you have to balance all that. But the reality is, and it's what I tell them, just like on the field, we shouldn't worry about who we're playing. We got to be the best we can be every day. If we're worried about who we're playing, we're not doing a good job. Yes, we need to know where we're going, and hey, we all know the itinerary, but really it's about being the best we can be. And that's exactly how you got to be in class. It's not look at the syllabus and go, oh my God, I got to do all this. It's, I'm going to take this a piece at a time, and I'm going to take care of it, and I'm going to be my best at each thing I do. And I'll tell them, hey, I got Latin letters on my diploma, and I never looked at the syllabus I liked.
I love it, Coach. And it's so funny. I write a blog every week on recruiting and coaching, and the significance is that I wrote a book called Significant Recruiting. So the podcast is called Significant Coaching. And it's obvious you embrace it. Whatever word you use, you embrace that idea of, I want these kids to learn how and be able to ask why instead of just do. Because it's obvious that you want them to learn how to be an adult. You don't want them to leave you and Hendrix, and all of a sudden they're seeing challenges and failures for the first time in their life, and they have no idea how to do it. You want them to fail. You're there. Your square shoulders are there to help them.
The last chance to make some mistakes and live with it.
That's right. And that's what I wrote about this weekend. And I love that you've talked about your fifth years and your seniors so much already, because I wrote this as a freshman. Everything's overwhelming. Everything is faster than it's ever been before. You're doing so much on your own. You have to get organized on your own. And then you see these upperclassmen, and they're doing everything you're doing. And it seems like it doesn't bother them at all. It seems like it's almost easy for them. And you're sitting there going, why is it so easy for them? And we want that 18-year-old mind to go, they followed the process. I have to follow the process too. Right?
I thought you hit a nail on the head, because I usually use this as an example for our freshmen. I'm like, for the first month, you're going to feel like a passenger in your own life.
Such a great analogy.
But you know what? Everybody had been there. We all done. I remember it. And of course, back in it was 3 a day. We practiced 3 times a day, and we ran after every practice. Hey, they put you in jail for that now. I remember going back going, I don't know if I'm cut out for college football.
Yes.
I was telling this story to a player in my office the other day. I was like, I got there and I was a good player. I'm not saying I was anything special. I played hard. That's what I was good at. But there was a guy sitting across from me, Max Halsey. He's the receivers coach at Highland Park now. And he used to be the head coach at Grinnell, and he coached at Colorado College before that. But he was one of my best friends. He's defensive end. He was a year older than me. And he was the best looking human being I'd ever seen at the time. And Like he won the time, he was a defensive end and a time quarter. He won the quarter in the conference track meet. And I'm sitting there after our first day and I'm eating dinner and he falls out on the floor in a full body cramp. And I'm like, I ain't never going to make it. That's the best looking.
If he's cramping, I'm in trouble.
Yeah,
It's the college years. I wish I could go back and go again, which is a completely different mindset. I wanted to rule the world and I wanted to do it in day one. And I wish somebody would have said, hey, you got plenty of time. Enjoy the fact that you've got a uniform on. Enjoy the fact that you got your brothers around you. And so it's just great to hear. I was you for a long time and just hearing how much love you have for these guys and just trying to just give them a little bit of patience is so important.
That's got you ask what the other thing that leads me to be here. And that's really the other thing is it's the love for our guys. I absolutely love our players. I love our alums that have played for us. And one of the coolest experiences that we've had is we had not had a homecoming game here since we dropped football back in 1960. And so this year was our first homecoming that we've had since 1960.
No kidding.
No kidding. And we had a whole bunch of guys from that first group and we won a heck of a ball game against Huntington, who was a very good team. And it was in this, and we kicked the field goal at the end of the game to win it at the same exact spot that Steve Crenshaw kicked our first winning kick against Westminster in the first game.
That's great.
And all the alums came and rushed me on the field. And it was like, the winning was fun, but it was probably more impactful for me to see everybody that had played here that had come back and enjoyed it. And it was a really great thing for our new president. It was a great thing for the school. And it's things like that that really just, and I love having a relationship with the guys. And I've never been a good business model person of how to do that. And I feel like everybody in coaching needs to find their niche of what they're good at. And I tell families all the time, like I've had an opportunity to coach at every level of football except the NFL, but I've chosen this level because I get to do what I want to do every day. I work for a great boss in Coach Weaver, and our president's awesome. And they let me go fishing when I want to, which is important too. And I get to have a relationship with our kids and I know who everybody is. And sometimes, you don't get that at a lot of other places.
Nope.
And everybody's different. And I've known a lot of guys at every level that are very relational, and I've known a lot that are not very relational, but this is what I know my niche is because I relate to our guys well. And I'm not saying I do a good job every day. I just relate well to them.
Yeah. You say you're not a great businessman or a business model. I think a lot of businesses could learn a lesson or two from you and how you run your program when it starts with, I care about these people first instead of I want to win or I want to make money first. I think we start going in the wrong direction. So when we start with that love and that care and that concern about their well-being and their future and becoming adults, I think we're on to something right.
Yep. I make a joke all the time. I say, yeah, in my previous life, I used to write a lot of letters of appeal, and I was planning on going to law school at one point. But in reality, now I just write write referral letters all the time and reference letters. So I like these much better.
I do too. I wrote one yesterday. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're saying. Coach, I'm going to transition into recruiting a little bit because I'm always interested in how coaches recruit, and I have a lot of parents and a lot of prospective student athletes that listen to these. How do you go about? You got the class. I'm sure you're getting close to wrapping up or trying to wrap up your class of 2025, and you'd like to get as many commitments as you can, probably before Christmas or around the first of the year. It's really hard with the way the FAFSA is right now, and you've got to wait for financial aid to come through before a lot of families will commit, I'm sure.
That's the biggest challenge.
Yeah,
really.
What's that process look like in terms of how you begin when you're attacking a class? What are you looking for, and how do you and your team go about finding those right kids for you?
So we're still old school recruiting wise. We still, when we're done with spring ball after spring break, we go to high schools, we see coaches, we still do grassroots recruiting. And again, I have a great staff and they do a great job. And a lot of our guys have played for us and they understand what our culture is, what a guy that that should be here, and what guys we should take chances on and what guys we shouldn't. And I'm not saying we're perfect at that, but it, you get. I was fortunate. Coach Morris, my defensive coordinator in college, and my mentor, second dad, whatever you want to. And then his son-in-law was Marty Secord that we started Louisiana College together. And Coach Morris had been at All-SAA College for 25 years, and he had recruited many of those classes over the years that were great teams. And he was just such a relational person. And you just learn how to find that it factor in some guys. Like, you just know when you meet a guy like that guy's got the it factor, and not necessarily what he showed on video, but like how he interacts with the janitor or how he is in the office, or that's what you're trying to find. You're trying to find that guy,
right?
Because that guy's going to make your program better. And hopefully that guy's really good on the field, but that guy makes your program better. Yeah. And so when you talk to coaches and you ask them, what's this young man like? How's he off the field? And fortunately, like Coach Phillips, our offensive coordinator, he coached in Texas for 23 years, high school ball, coached at Louisville and Denton Guyer and South Lake Carroll, and coached with huge staffs over the years and knows a lot of people. And then, of course, a lot of the guys that I've known in North Texas growing up. So when we recruit in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, it's really hard to find somebody that we don't have a connection with between us. And then Coach Dorr played for Coach Secord. He recruits in Dallas. So really understanding that who we are, the coaches know who fits with us too, because there's a lot of people that know us over the years and as people, and people that have recruited in that area for a long time. I don't think I would have the same impact if I went to Chicago, because I don't know people there. But again, it's still building those relationships to where a coach goes, this is a guy you want. And because also I believe that when that coach says, hey, Coach Buck has come to look at you today, and I've known Coach Buck for this many years, and he's had this many players play for him, for me, and this is what they're doing, that speaks volumes, in my opinion, because we're still players. Like, if Coach Morris called me today and told me to do something, I'd go do it. That's what I do. Yeah. So I believe that building relationships with coaches is still important. And that's where I think I would really not like Division I now, because that's sometimes you're dealing with agents and doing stuff now. It's a different ballgame. You're not dealing with grassroots recruiting like it used to be.
No, there's sometimes signing a kid after knowing him for a day.
Yeah.
How do you know what you're getting after you talk to a kid on the phone a couple times or had him on campus for 30 minutes? Yeah. I wouldn't want to be in that world either.
It's like somebody asked me the other day, I say, you know what? Anybody tells you wouldn't take the pay, they'd be lying to you, but I don't think anybody wants what goes with it right now.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of coaches leaving coaching because of it, a lot of the greats.
Anyway, I was getting it like that. We're still grassroots like that. And that's how we start. And so we're going to do that in the spring. And of course, the internet's huge nowadays. That's a tool. When I first started, you didn't have that ability to go do. And so, yeah, I mean, we're going to recruit off of Twitter, and we're going to recruit off of some things, because we can find people that we might not have found, but we're still going to follow up. We're still going to ask questions about them. And then, we do our database on Slate and all that stuff. And so, and then we're part of a new pilot project as well, which I think is going to be really big. I think we're the only Division III doing it right now, but it's called Scoreability. And Scoreability does a deal where we could do a personality inventory on that, and we could get a personality inventory from a kid that fills it out for them. It actually comes from, hey, Coach Buchanan has selected you as a possible recruit and would like for you to do this. And it has, for us, that personality assessment is crucial, because what we did, we took all that, our current players, and did them and put them through that personality assessment.
Love that.
It gives them a score rating. And so now when I'm looking at our recruits that have done that, I can go, all right, this guy ranks like these guys in our program, or this guy is way below what we would like as a personality inventory. And so those are things that's not height, weight, wingspan, everything else. And that's on that too, but it doesn't apply to us as much as Division I's. But when you're talking about trying to find out, when you're trying to be selective and trying to make difference and get difference makers, that's what I think is going to be really important in the future. So there's the academic part, there's that personality part, there's metric part too, but I'm not as concerned about the metrics as I am that personality part. So I'm really excited about that and how that's going to transfer over to this recruiting class. It's the first year of it. And again, we're the only Division III, I think, that's part of that project. And it goes, I've been very fortunate to work with those folks right now and get to be on the ground floor of being able to do this. Cause again, I think as it goes, not only for us, but I think for Division I, they need some more data before they start going, all right, let's go to invest. Because used to it was a scholarship. Now it's extra commas.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to be interested to talk to you in a couple of years to see how those results have evolved over kids being on your campus and on your roster for a couple of years. That's going to be really intriguing to see those things.
Yep, I am, and I have to give credit to Bob Stitt because Stitty was offensive coordinator at Austin College, and I coached 1 year before he left to go to Harvard and then Mines and then Montana, and Coach Stitt's awesome coach, but he was into analytics way before everybody else, and he's part of this process of how to determine who to invest in. He does a lot of the NFL interviews and stuff, so some of that data is based on some of that NFL interview process. I feel like it's going to be a game changer in the future. And of course, I'm fortunate to be on the ground floor of it, but I think it's going to be good. And I think for major college football, it's probably going to be good too. But again, I want to be able to go, all right, when we're talking about this kid, other than our communication and him coming to campus and interacting, what can we find out about him?
I love the idea that you're learning things ahead of time about a kid that maybe is sometimes hard to get out of that kid.
Yep.
And
it's harder and harder now because having a conversation with a kid is difficult. You can call a kid. Back in the day, you had scheduled times to call them, but like you call a kid now, they won't answer the phone, but they'll immediately text you back. So
right.
A lot of times they don't want to have a conversation.
Yeah, which they don't understand. It's just making their recruitment even harder by not having that conversation. Now you're guessing instead of talking.
Yep.
Are you concerned at all about an inventory where a kid may give the answer they think you want to hear instead of?
The way I've understood this, because I don't know what the actual questions are, but this data is backed up over a lot of other stuff. It's not just there's a lot of things that validate not being able to trick the test.
Okay.
How the questions are and about how that score pans out. So again, I'm anxious to see how it does transfer, but I also know that our guys that took that inventory on our current team, it did point out some things that were like, okay, that's exactly what that kid
hit the nail on the head, huh?
Yeah. So if I wouldn't have had that correlation, I don't know if I would have trusted it as much.
Exactly. I love that you did it with your present players too.
Yep. That's part of their deal. I think it's really a neat thing. So
that's great. It's so smart too, from a business model to say, we're going to give this to you first with your old present guys so you can have a comparison of the reality. Your guys already. So we're going to show you what that assessment's saying about them. Oh, that's really smart. I love that.
It was funny because I got to know these guys and they were great guys. Both of them's kids were recruited Division I to play sports, and they got through this whole process and they were like, first of all, this is a racket. We shouldn't have to pay to be recruited. And the second thing is we got to find a way to get data to people that can actually assess this and so we're not running around the country spending money, going to visit places and all that stuff. So they were both computer programmers. And so they're like, we're going to make this. And I think it's a great idea. And again, they saw it from that perspective of being recruited and going all around the country and going, all right, these are things that I saw through the recruiting process that I think we can streamline.
I love that. I don't love that they're trying to put me out of business, but I love the idea. Coach, I talk to families, I speak at events, and I talk to families all the time about the numbers that somebody like you has to evaluate, the number of kids you have to evaluate every year. What does that look like? Let's say, what's the number you guys are shooting for most year? You want to get down to 25 recruits, or is that what?
Yeah, last year was a large year for us. So we had 48 guys come in last year, but again, we have 11 seniors. We're still at that, trying to build back up. So next year, our number is closer to 25, 30. So
how many will you look at to get to that 30?
That's a moving target. I'll tell you what, we try to look at everybody in our region that's academically eligible to be at our place.
Okay.
And then we start whittling it down from there.
So that might be 1,000 kids.
Yeah, we're probably about 1,000 kids, maybe 700 and something, 700
Right.
to 1,000.
Fluctuates a couple hundred every year, I'm sure.
But last year, when we brought in that class, we probably had 300 guys visit.
To get to 48.
Yeah. And again, we have a summer visit program where we bring guys in summer. So I've foregone camps. I don't believe in camps because camps aren't camps anymore. All right. I'm just going to get on the soapbox here, and everybody can argue me but camp's not camp. When I was growing up, camp meant you went and learned football for a week and you went to camp. I refuse to charge a guy $25, run a 40, do a pro agility, and give him the illusion of recruiting. That's just not how I'm going to do it. I'm just not doing it that. I refuse.
I agree.
The little kids can come pay and do camp and learn football, and all the coaches can make money from it. But I refuse to do that to give people the illusion of recruiting. So we've foregone that. We used to do a 2-day camp where we did like fall camp and we taught camp. But honestly, kids aren't interested in doing that anymore either because high school runs all the year round now. Back when I played, you couldn't do organized stuff in the summer. So there's good and bad with that. I think so there's some times where kids need to be kids and they need to quit playing. That's beyond me. And now it's good to have them off the street, good to have them organized and doing stuff, but you don't want to take the love of the game out of them because you squeezed it all out. But again, that's a whole nother issue. But I refuse to do the camp thing. And so we've done this deal where we start our recruiting visits in the summer. And so we get guys here. Look, you're either going to like this place or you're going to scratch us off the list.
Yeah.
And we want to know when you leave, are we in the hunt or are we not in the hunt? We've tried to do it that way and started our relationship that way. And then that group of summer visits yields very little in terms of if they don't come back for a second visit. But that's probably 8 to 10% of people that visit in summer actually enroll. But once we get to after season visits, we're basically close to 30% that come to visit and are accepted or coming here.
I'm sure it's a big advantage for them to come while students are on campus and they get to see culture in its fullest, where the summer, it can feel a little bit like
it's hard in the summer because we don't have summer school here. We do internships in most, but we do have enough guys that are staying on campus working out and stuff that they get a player interview and a player. So we get some interaction and we try to do that best we can. But then we go, hey, if you're interested when you leave this day to day and you come back for a game day visit or whatever, then we can have you come back and do an overnight. We can have you come back and eat in the cafeteria and experience a day in classroom. But right now is to decide, hey, is Hendrix on my list or is Hendrix off my list?
Yeah. Coach, I was a college basketball coach, so your world is crazy to me. I might have had 30, 35 kids come visit and we would sign 5 or 6 of them. You've got to bring in 300-400 kids on campus to get to your 25, 30, 40 every year. I know how important relationships are to you. How do you personally build a relationship with 300 kids? How do you find the time?
It's not really all 300. It's the ones that you feel like you connect with.
Okay.
And for me, it's not just me though, like every recruiting coach, every recruiter, it's really them developing the relationship first and carrying that over. And then me trying to make sure that the guys know what they're going to get from being here. And then just trying to resonate that over the time. And it's the same way with when we're coaching. I don't get like I've been a part of groups of staff or whatever that they get their feelings hurt when one coach is liked over the other. There's going to be guys that come to my office and they're going to hang out with me. There's going to be guys that go into Coach Phillips' office. There's going to be guys that go to Coach Schultz. I don't get my feelings hurt because as long as they connect with somebody, that's what we want. Because I'm not going to connect with everybody all the time.
Are parents looking for that connection with you though, since you're the leader of the program?
I think so. Yes. I'm not saying that I don't have that, but I have a availability, but it's still layered to get to that spot.
I know you want it and I'm sure the parents want it, but I'm assuming on game day, when you have home games, you probably have 20, 30 boys that are on campus. Do you try and do that?
You mean like on a game day visit?
Yeah. Game day visits.
So yeah, we had for the homecoming weekend, it blew up on us like it was crazy. We've never had that many people come, but I think we had 70 guys here to visit. And so we had 70 guys to visit. A lot of those guys were multiple visit guys though. So like they'd been there in the summer and so we know who they are. and we had the alums, and we had, so here's how we handle that. And I addressed the whole group. So we don't do the admissions day during game day visit.
Okay.
We bring them straight to the tailgate. We have an awesome tailgate here. Our parents run that. And so we let our parents talk to their parents.
That's awesome. That's so smart.
That's the bridge, because
good for
our
you.
current parents know me, and they know how I am with their kids and all that stuff. And I encourage all the people that come visit, talk to our current parents.
They're the best salesmen, aren't they?
And yes. And so they have that interaction there. And then for that alumni day, or for homecoming, we had all of our alumni there too. And so our alumni interacted with those guys, and it was a really neat experience. And I addressed the group, but I didn't really get to say hi to everybody. And I told them straight up, I said, I would love to see everybody individually, but I have about 70 former players over there. And I'm going to tell you, if everything works out, I'm going to hang out with those guys. But if you come here, I want to do the same thing for you after you graduate, because you have earned that time.
Yeah. The fact that 70 guys are coming back and want to be with me, that should tell you something without you having to say it. That is a great advertisement. That's really smart. Coach, I could talk to you all day long. I'm probably going to have you back at some point.
Okay.
Because I definitely want to talk about this personality inventory you're doing. I definitely want to talk about everything that you're doing creatively with the program. But I know Center College is the focus of your brain right now, and I want to get you.
I'm compartmentalized. I'm very compartmentalized. And plus, it was fall camp today. It was fall break today, so we went back this morning. That's why I'm dressed. It was cold for the first time, and we practiced this morning. We got done. We practiced, and we lifted, and then we were done at about 11:30. And
nice.
And I said, Ben, just enjoy. This is how Division I is every day. This is our one-day experience. You know?
That's right. What's a classroom? Or what is that? Coach, before I let you go, I always ask college coaches to give one piece of advice to parents and prospective recruits. What's a piece of advice that you think kids need to hear
Here's my
about
piece
that
of
recruiting
advice.
process?
Here's my piece of advice. It's multi-layered. Number one, Psalms 118. Today's the day the Lord has made. Rejoice and be glad in it. Look, you have to have a goal about where you want to go. You have to have a vision about what you want. But the reality is, you're only a senior one time, and you get that chance with those guys that you've grown up with one time. So yeah, you got one chance to do that today. And then, because fear of tomorrow and regret of yesterday are the two things that keep us from being the best today. So bottom line is, you learn from your mistakes yesterday, but you make sure that you're a senior right now, and know that there's a place for you, because everybody wants to go somewhere. There's a place for you. But if you focus too much on where you want to go, and you focus too much on wanting to be recruited, rather than enjoying the team that you're on, enjoying the team that you're with and you grew up with, then you're going to miss the most important things that happen to you every day. So yeah, you dream about tomorrow, learn from your past, but live your todays. And you just can't want to be recruited more than you want to play. And
I don't think we could have ended this conversation on anything better, Coach. Thank you so much. I'll be cheering for you and the boys this weekend, and I'll definitely look forward to talking to you down the road.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I enjoyed it. And I since you had sent me a deal, I'd already looked at some of the stuff, and I enjoy what you talk about and do. So I really appreciate it.
That's my pleasure, Coach. I tell kids all the time what you just talked about. And there's so many great coaches in this country. And this is why I do the podcast. I coach D3, I coach NAI, I coach D2. And there's so many just fantastic human beings that can flat out coach like you. So whenever I get to introduce the world to a Buck Buchanan and Hendrix College, which is a fantastic school and a great place to get a degree and learn and grow up, it's a joy for me. So thank you for your time.
Appreciate it, Matt.
All right. Good luck, Coach. We'll be
Hey, I never turned down luck, money, or prayer.
I'm with you, my friend.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Significant Coaching Podcast. I'd like to thank the great Coach Buck Buchanan for sharing his amazing spirit and passion for coaching with me. I'm proud to call him a friend and can't wait for our next conversation. If you're enjoying these conversations, please click that subscribe and like buttons. If you're interested in working with me or scheduling me to speak at your school or organization, you can schedule a free strategy session at coachmattrogers.com. Hey, thanks for listening. Have a significant week. Goodbye until next time.